Well, we've got an action-packed show. We're going to talk in the patron-only hour. We're going to examine the video that O'Keefe broke from Project Veritas, but we're going to only cover that when we get patron-only. And this is the dialogue between Zuckerberg and Fauci, and they're talking about this and that. We're going to explore that, but it was a great break on the part of O'Keefe and Project Veritas, and we're going to take a closer look at that.
People in the comments are very concerned, John. Valiant One is telling us that Mr. Potato Head has gone gender neutral, so we now have just potato.
But there's still Potato Head and the spouse, right? So there's still a Potato Head character that has a mustache, and there's still a Potato Head character that is of the other gender. I think we're just no.
I don't think they think there's just one other gender.
Oh, there's
They'd
now
rather
nine.
not say.
9 potatoes. Yeah, it's like Prego. Yeah, it's like there's a lot of choices. Hey, look, I'm all for that. Again, if you want to identify as a dolphin, I'm cool with that too.
That was from South Park, right?
Yeah. That was Mr. Garrison's. Yeah. All right, so let's take a look at the deck. Let me show you what we've got. We've got some video clips queued up. We've got a lot of really good material. So why don't we just get right into the deck, and the deck will take us where we go.
I do have the live stream going on the John E. Hoover channel, so sorry about that little delay for everybody who's watching on the John E. Hoover YouTube channel. And remember, you can subscribe, totally free, of course. It's just a YouTube channel. People who are not yet subscribed to the John E. Hoover channel, please make your way over there. And I promise next show we will have it starting right away on the button.
You see the location? Look at the location.
What does it say? It's a small world. I like it. And we're asking the question tonight, John, is COVID the world's first racist, sexist virus? Is it?
We're going to look at the data, right? So that's how we operate. We don't really form hypotheses anymore because I think they're socially unacceptable. You're not allowed to have ideas or thoughts. So we just look at the data and then we shut up.
Certainly no debate, right? But the good thing is you've got the real life Mr. Potato Head right here in the slide.
Well, we're going to talk about him and Fauci together. They have a conversation, and that's what O'Keefe breaks, is this conversation between Fauci and Zuckerberg. And we're going to take a look at that when we go patron only. And it's really pretty interesting, but I think it's a little bit too hot for this aspect of the show. So if you know what I mean. Yeah. So let's go to the next slide, and I'll show you guys what we have. So, so we have a video queued up basically of Anthony Fauci confirming the hypothesis that I put forward in October. So for the audience, if you're new to this, I put out a white paper in October of 2020 that built on a paper that came from the CDC. The CDC's paper said that influenza, there was like no activity in Chile, in South Africa, in Australia, and the United States. And Jason and I had been looking at the World Health Organization's reports, and we're like, yeah, there's like, 72 other countries where there's also no influenza. So I documented that, and I incorporated the CDC's paper. And then let's go to the next page. And so I took their work, cited it, incorporated it, and then we go to the next page in the deck. And I just said, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Here we go.
Okay. So I just incorporated more countries, right? So I just added additional observations to the CDC's observations. And I said, yeah, and Malaysia and Romania and all these other countries. It seems that the influenza has, for the most part, disappeared. And you and I also covered the fact that it disappeared about the same time. So I published this in October, and now it appears that Dr. Fauci is confirming this on the show with Brett Baer. So we're going to run that clip in a minute, but let's just take a look at one or two more pages from the white paper so that the audience understands this is not a joke. Like, I published this. This is like a real thing. I don't know, it's
But where
35
did you
pages.
publish it, though? Like the
All over the
American
place,
New
everywhere.
England
I mean,
Journal of
yeah.
Medicine?
No. Meaning I published it. Whether other people picked it up, that's a whole nother story. But it's copyrighted. It's been published. It's been, mailed out to all
Oh,
kinds.
look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Well done, John. And have
Oh,
they
yeah.
gotten back to you about the Nobel Prize for Science or whatever?
I think that there's a big delay in the mail because of coronavirus, so I'm expecting
Right.
it'll probably be here next week or something. So,
Okay. Yeah.
but that's to be expected. And we're going to get to the second award. But yeah, let's keep going. There's more and more. Yes, again, this is a real paper. This is not a joke. So the paper talks about how it appears that while everything was going on with COVID, that influenza, for the most part, based on this data, kind of disappeared. And Brett Baer asks Anthony Fauci about it, as if he's read the paper. And let's see what Anthony Fauci has to say. I sent you this video clip. You should have Brett Baer and Fauci clip kind of queued up here.
Yeah. Now, it's the studio here is a little bit, I need another audio interface to be able to do audio the way we're used to, but we should be able to get it right like this. Let's see how this goes.
Yeah. Because of what we're doing with coronavirus, we haven't heard a lot about the seasonal flu. We lose 30 to 60,000 people from the flu. Has that gone down dramatically?
Extraordinarily dramatically, Brett. And in fact, that is a very good testimony to the efficacy of wearing masks, avoiding congregate settings, and keeping distance, because we did that during this late fall, early winter, and the level of influenza in the community is remarkably low regarding comparisons to other years. Our Australian colleagues had the same experience during their winter, which is essentially our summer. When I was talking to my colleagues in Australia, they were saying, Tony, we don't have hardly any flu this year, and we think it's due to the fact that people are wearing masks, keeping their distance, and avoiding congregate settings. Goes to show you that those types of public health measures actually work.
That's amazing because, my Australian colleagues are from Brooklyn, and they're like, Tony, we don't have hardly any flu over here.
Hardly any. We have hardly any over here.
It's extremely, dramatically less.
And it's scientific too. So
Holy cow,
the only problem with this is if we go to worldometers.info, and we can do this live. So if you pull up worldometers.info, click on the coronavirus thing at the top when it comes up.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna scroll down to United States, USA. Just scroll down till you'll see a big table that'll say with all the countries, and you click on USA. And after you click on USA, at the bottom of the page, there's going to be a graph showing daily deaths. It'll be all the way down at the bottom of the page. And keep going. Daily deaths. Up, you just passed it. Up. It's the last chart.
There we go.
There you go. Daily new deaths in the United States. So if you listen to what Dr. Fauci just said, you with me? We okay?
I am. Somehow
Audio
my
switch.
mic is going into your outgoing audio. The backup mic I have so you can hear me. But we'll address that. Maybe
Did
you
that
got it.
fix it?
Yeah.
Now I don't hear. Now I hear you.
Oh, well, we'll deal with that later. Anyway.
All right. So daily new deaths in the United States went up in the fall and winter. So what Dr. Fauci just said about the social distancing and the efficacy of it in eradicating influenza, why would COVID deaths go up as influenza disappears? It's almost like yeah. So the term is counterintuitive, right? So what the street term is it doesn't make any sense, but the scientific term is it's counterintuitive. If Dr. Fauci's argument is that the social distancing and the mask wearing worked for influenza and that's how we were able to eradicate it, why is it then that the COVID got worse in the same group of people?
Next question, please.
Indeed. Right. So yeah, exactly. This is what the grand jury is going to look like, by the way, Dr. Fauci. All right.
Yeah.
So let's go back to our deck. Let's go back to the deck.
Now, John, don't let me forget this, because people in the comments want us to talk about Joe Biden determining that Mohammed bin Salman was involved in the Khashoggi Julianne operation.
Of course he was. Of course he was.
Yeah, I don't know why that's news.
Yeah, I mean, again, why is no one asking the very simple question? And we've talked about this before. Why? Why did MBS do something so heinous? And then ask yourself, what type of phone call would you have to hear recorded in order to do something like that to someone? And I can think of that phone call because I've got a twisted head.
Right. I was going to say, I don't know that I would ever do exactly that, but it's like that Chris Rock sketch. He's like, I'm not saying he should have killed her, but I understand.
Exactly. I'm not condoning it, but I'm saying that if in fact Khashoggi was part of the executive team that planned what happened in Las Vegas, which is a whole hypothetical thing. We're not saying that's what happened. We're saying right now, the way the pieces fall on the table, it appears that that is the most likely scenario. That's called the most cogent hypothesis. So, I'm sorry, this is just science, right? So it's called the most cogent hypothesis. And the idea is, in order for there to be a second hypothesis that challenges this hypothesis, it needs to be equally well researched. And that's
supported
the challenge.
by evidence.
Exactly. So you need to have a body of evidence that is roughly equivalent to this hypothesis, that is similarly cogent. Then, so for example, we've used a straw man kind of jokingly about El Chapo, right? If there was
that could be Khashoggi's new nickname, El Chapo.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny.
Sorry.
So, but the idea being, if there was any evidence of that, it would have come forward now 3.5 years later, right? So the notion here is that if MBS had every reason in the world to do what he did, imagine how heinous Khashoggi's plans were that got intercepted. So I'm simply asking why? Why would the guy who's always smiling, who's always laughing, he owns the biggest yacht, the thing is beautiful, he just bought
Does
the
he
Leonardo.
own the world's biggest yacht?
Not the biggest, but I think one of the most beautiful, right? Serene or Serenity, I forget which name it is now. It was Serene and now it's Serenity or vice versa. And it's magnificent. It's just beautiful. And he bought the Leonardo da Vinci painting of Jesus and put it in the boat. So
Why
the Leonardo
would he do that? Why does he want a Jesus painting if he's a Wahhabi Muslim?
I told you this. All three religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, all support the Old Testament, all celebrate the Old Testament, all three religions. Then Islam and Christianity both support, everything about Jesus Christ. And then those two religions separate when you get to Muhammad. Right? So, but up until Muhammad, these guys love Jesus. They love
Is this
Jesus.
the actual yacht here, John? He's got like a castle on top of the yacht?
Come on. You would fall for that? You're discriminating.
Who made
Come
that?
on.
Yeah, that's weird.
No,
this is the yacht.
No, it's the blue one. That's Bin Zayed. Yeah, the blue one is Serene.
There we go.
There you go. Yeah. And see if you can get some interior shots. The interior shots are stunning. Serene yacht interior.
I'll tell you, if I had a yacht like that, I would never leave it.
And hence he buys the Leonardo da Vinci painting. I think he paid $450 million, $500 million.
Wow. Holy cow.
He paid as much for the painting as he did for the boat. Actually, more. The boat he paid $300 million.
Wild.
Bought it off the
Who
Russian
had that
guy.
painting?
I don't know. I don't know. So
Man.
this is MBS's yacht. So again, this whole nonsense about Khashoggi, where's the reporting? Where's the investigative reporting to look into why would MBS do something so heinous? Why would a guy who's always smiling, who's got everything to live for, everybody who knows him seems to love him, except for this old guard. Except for the old guard. Your Bruce Rydell's, your Clappers, your Brennans. I mean, this is, I don't know if the audience saw the movie Syriana, but it's playing out right in front of your eyes. It's playing out.
Pull out what's his name's fingernails, George Clooney.
Yeah, it's playing out. All right, let's get back to our deck and keep moving forward because we got a lot of interesting stuff I want to get to before we go to the patron-only portion. Yeah, so I saw this article on Breitbart, and I thought that this must be very, very important. And this is that they're talking about how many directors in Hollywood are male and female, and that HBO has the lowest percentage of minorities, and CBS has the lowest female directors. And I guess that's a very important problem. So
they got Jason Bateman directing with a bow tie.
And a hell of a camera set up there. That's not a Canon EOS 5D right there. That's something special.
That's probably they got like a Sony Genesis is hot right now, or a Red something or other. That's actually not that big.
Yeah, but that's expensive.
Of course.
Yeah, that's big money there. All right, so we go to the next page in the deck, and let's see. So Vice President Kamala Harris did an interview with Al Sharpton, and in this interview, she says something that kind of caught my attention. And so before, let's see, should we run the clip now? Yeah, why don't we run the clip now, and then we'll come back to the story. But I want to talk about this whole ethnicity and gender because you know what? Go one more slide after the. It says Vice President Kamala Harris and Al Sharpton. Go one more slide after that.
What's going on here? We got a whole.
You can close that. That's Fauci. Yeah. One more slide in the deck.
It's a new setup here, so everything's all different. Now, we're not done with talking about Jason Bateman and the female directors.
Well, so the gist of this is these articles now are talking about ethnicity, they're talking about gender, they're talking about how many directors in Hollywood are white and how many are Latino and how many are Asian, and then how many directors are male versus female. And I guess this is a problem, right? I guess this is a very important problem that we need to be talking more about. So, you know how I like to focus on solving problems, right? So I think I may have found a solution to this problem. How can we get more female directors into Hollywood? I know how. I think I found them. So let's go to the next slide. No. You know what? Go back up. All right, let's run the video. Let's run the video of Al Sharpton and Kamala Harris, and then we'll go to the next slide.
Sure. Al Sharpton, Kamala Harris. Here we go. Let me get this out of here. I got more screens in New York, so I don't have to have all these things sitting around.
It looks great from our side, so that's what it. Yeah,
we know black people are disproportionately likely to contract the virus and die from it.
We are in the midst of a pandemic. We are disproportionately impacted in the black community. And in the black community, we've had the problem of hesitancy and questioning and given a bad history, there's no reason why we wouldn't. But you've been that champion of trying to convince us, including people like me that were reluctant, and you're doing something specific. Tell us about Thursday.
So Thursday, I'm going to visit a pharmacy, which is one of the hundreds that we are directly getting vaccinations to get vaccines to, so folks can get vaccinated in their communities. So we have actually distributed 2 million vaccines to local pharmacies in communities. We're also getting at least 1 million vaccines to community health centers, those trusted places in the community where folks go for their health care. And the point, Rev, is this. I got vaccinated. I can tell you, first of all, that these vaccines are safe. It will save your life. There is a black woman, Dr. Kizzy Corbett, who was part of the team of scientists who created this vaccine, and it will save your life. Yes, we must speak truth about the history of medical testing in this country. We must be honest about the fact that people have a righteous skepticism about how it has been used, how it has been tested, and on whom it will be used. There is a righteous skepticism if you know history, but I promise you, and I am telling you, this vaccine is safe, and it will save your life and the lives of your family and your community, and we have it within our power to actually do that. So get your vaccination when it is your turn. It will save your life.
You know, as I said, I've been out there dealing with COVID-19 testing, but I was skeptical about the vaccine. But you turned me around, you talked to me, and while you out there at the pharmacy, I got a couple of minutes, we're going to Harlem Hospital at the same time you out there and get vaccinated, my first shot, because the vice president told me to do it. I think that
that's right.
That's part of what you bring to that office. And as we continue fighting on other things, voting and all of that, the first thing we have to do is be here and be alive.
But that's right, Reverend. Here's the thing. Let's not let COVID get us.
Wait a minute now.
Let's get the vaccine instead, right? Let's not let this thing get us. We know black people are disproportionately likely to contract the virus and die from it. We know when you look at who the frontline workers are, who have been most at risk, disproportionately we are talking about people of color. When you look at the fact that black small businesses, as many as I've seen, 40%, are going out of business or have gone out of business, it is disproportionately affecting us. And if we want to get control of this virus that is harming us at a disproportionate rate, part of it is to get vaccinated when it is our turn. Part of it is to wear your mask. I have my mask right here. To wear your mask all the time when you are around other people. 6 feet of distance. Wash your hands with warm or hot water and soap. Let's save our lives. That's what this is about. We're going to get beyond this. And part of what the president and I are offering as part of the relief is the American Rescue Plan to say it can't only be on folks. It has to be all of us working together. So that's what everybody needs to do as an individual. Get the vaccine, wear a mask, social distancing, wash your hands. What we need to do is pass the American Rescue Plan, so we can get those $1,400 checks to folks, so we can save our small businesses, so that we can pass the child tax credit, so that families can lift half of American children who are living in poverty out of poverty. Let's extend the unemployment benefits. Let's do all of these things, partnering together, so that we can get through this moment of crisis. Because I'm telling you, I have faith. I believe in our ability to get through this and to be better on the other side if we all work together to lift folks up and to lift ourselves up when we have the opportunity.
Now, wait a minute, John. She was kind of like, I'll tell you what, if I ever have an opportunity to interview Anthony Fauci, the whole interview will be like this, because apparently when you're talking to somebody, you have to talk like them. She was channeling the Reverend Al Sharpton there for a minute, and she shortchanged everybody by $600. And did you notice this? When she said, I was vaccinated, she looked down. That was a liar's tell.
Well, do me a favor, play the first 8 seconds of the video one more time. The first 8 seconds. What does she say?
Oops.
Likely to contract the virus and die from it.
We are in the...
Sorry, what did she say there? She said black people are more likely to contract the virus and die from it. Yeah. Exactly. So when I heard her say that, I thought, well, who's telling her that? Where did she get that data from? Because if that's true, if that is a fact, that would be very important, right? Scientifically and socio whatever.
But I think purely scientifically. So as soon as I hear that, so I'm watching this interview and I'm thinking, oh my God, could this be like sickle cell anemia? Could this be an affliction?
Is there some genetic
Right, right. And is this true? Right. So if that is the case, to what degree is it impacting Black people? So I went digging into that this week, and that's what you're going to see right now. So let's go back to our deck. All right. So what I wanted to understand, first of all, is the population of the United States ethnically. So I had to research that. And what you find is that of the 330, it's not 333 million, I think it's 331 million. But Bill Gates is thrilled that it's at 330 something million. So it's fantastic. So all the Masons out there, right on. All right. So of the 330 million, the breakdown is 221 million are white and other. 47.8 million are Black, and then 61 million are Hispanic. And that is the current makeup of the United States population at the moment. So what I did was I wanted to see versus the makeup of the population, what is the makeup of the coronavirus deaths by race? And, you know, I never really looked at race, right? But this time I did. And I said, so here we go. So here we have white and other is blue. Black is in green, and Hispanic. And so when you look at the breakdown by race of the coronavirus, now go back
Seems
up
to really
to
match.
Look at the slide above.
It's almost the same.
Okay. Now go to the next slide after it. There they are side by side. So the one on the left is the population distribution, and the one on the right
1% higher. Yeah. So it's 1% higher.
Now, so the question is, if it wasn't absolutely identical, what is the closest it could possibly be? 1%.
Well, a fraction of a percent.
Right.
It's pretty
so
close to
not
the
identical.
population distribution. What's the error ratio?
I don't think we need one. We have this as exact counts. This is there is no error. We're counting death
But I mean,
certificates.
plus or minus 1%. Makes a mistake.
I,
it's pretty darn close to the population distribution.
Yeah. So let's go to the next slide. All right. So now, if you remember, we did a show a while ago where we asked, does sex matter? Do you remember that? We asked, is sex relevant in this whole thing? And if so, would we want to know about it, right? Well, we now know that Vice President Kamala Harris's angle on that this is afflicting Black people more so, that doesn't really appear to be borne out by the data from the CDC. So that puts me in a rather awkward position of having to, correct the Vice President of the United States. So I appreciate her commentary, and if it was true, it would be scientifically something we should explore, like a sickle cell anemia, but the data doesn't bear that out. It looks at the distribution of the deaths as identical. So then we go back to does sex matter? And the question is, was that my second Nobel Prize? And when we looked at this a while ago, this was back in January, we noticed that one particular set of chromosomes, XX versus XY, one chromosomes was dying at a rate of almost twice the other. And we asked, so if this is the case, isn't this something we should explore further? And so this is sort of the base that I came at this from. When I heard Vice President Kamala Harris say that Black people are dying, more than white people, I'm thinking, oh my God, is it another one of these 2-to-1 things, right? Because if it was, right, if you found out that twice as many Black people, prorated by population, were dying as white people, we'd be like, well, what the hell? Why is that happening, right? That would be really be relevant, right? Or if they told you that Asian Americans are dying at twice the rate of everybody else, you'd be like, well, how the hell is that happening? But when we reported that one particular set of chromosomes is dying at twice the rate of the other, that story didn't get picked up by the media at all, even though it's based on CDC mortality data. This is straight from the COVID system. This is right off the page.
I'm thinking, John, because you hear all the time in terms of these medical tests the concept of statistical significance. And I'm just looking up right now, how do we determine, I don't know if 1% is considered statistically significant. Like if you spent billions of dollars developing a vaccine and it only prevented 1% of the people from getting sick, I feel like that would not be considered statistically significant. But I don't know that we have time to dig into this right now.
I do.
But
Well,
what
I'm
is statistical significance?
So statistical significance is when you're doing sampling, and we're not doing sampling. Statistical significance, for example, is when I was counting how many people were leaving the exit in Las Vegas, and I counted 500 people coming through the exit. The statistical significance was 95% plus or minus, or 90% plus or minus 5%. So that's statistical significance, and that's when you're sampling. Here we're not sampling. We're counting actual death certificates. So statistical significance is irrelevant here. We're not sampling.
But I'm just saying, if 14% of the population are black and 15% of the people getting coronavirus are black, it sounds to me like somebody could make an argument that black people are more statistically affected by it. But I'm just not sure that 1% counts as... is that scientifically?
Go 3 pages up in the deck where we had the side by sides. Look at the side by side charts. Yeah,
I
there
mean,
you go.
It's very close to the same.
Yeah, I mean, would if you're a scientist and you're in a lab and you're going, okay, one of these represents the population distribution in the United States, and the other represents the distribution of actual deaths of COVID by race. Does it appear we have a problem?
I'm just thinking from the standpoint of politicians and lawyers, and they would say, 14% of the population are black, 67% are white, 15% of the people getting sick are black, 65% are white, so the virus is racist.
Yeah, and I would say that the jury is looking at them like you're out of your mind. This again, it can't be any closer than 1% without being the same. And if it was identical, you'd be like, well, that's ridiculous. How is it exactly the same? It can't be exactly the same. So it's 1% off. It's as close as it could be without being identical. So let's keep going because we got a lot more stuff before we break.
Yeah.
And we have only like 10 more minutes. So further down in the deck, so does sex matter? So the question here is Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, is talking about race, and we're finding that it's the same, and yet when we look at sex seems to matter. Now this is Randi Weingarten. She's the president of the association. What is it? The
UTF, the teachers union.
United Federation of Teachers, the American Federation of Teachers.
Yeah, UFT, right, United Federation of Teachers. We heard about her from Michael King.
And she's actually been president of each organization at different moments. Right now she's president of one of them and not the other. I just lost all that white noise in my headphones, which is much better. Whatever you did sounds much better. I guess the spooks went for a coffee break. All right, so Randi Weingarten is the president of the American Federation of Teachers. She's going to love this new idea that I came up with. Let's go to the next page. They're trying to open the schools in the United States, right? And they're talking about this $180 billion to open the schools safely. So I wanted to understand how many teachers are there in the country. So I did a little research on that. So let's go to the next slide. And what I found is the average age and the age in every single state. I found how many women and how many men there are in every single state in the United States. And so what we know now is that the average age of teachers in the U.S. is 42 years old. We know that the state with the most male teachers is Wyoming. And we have it by every way you want to twist it. So we know the average age, and you can see it's about 42. And with this data, what I'm able to do then is, you'll see on the next slide. So let's go to the next slide. All right, so remember, we've only got 72 kids in the United States between 5 and 14 years old that have died with COVID, compared to over 5,000 that have died from other causes. And the other causes that are larger, so we've got more kids dead with asthma, we have more kids dead with stroke, we have more kids that died in swimming pool or drownings. So there's a whole number of categories that are greater than the COVID deaths for school-age kids. So it appears that the issue with reopening the schools isn't really about kids dying. That's not the heart of the issue here, right? There's just not that many kids dying in the United States, right? With only 72 school-age kids. So that's not the issue. So let's go to the next slide. Okay. So as I said, when we look at these kids, now we're looking at birth to 14. So this includes infants and 1 to 4. But what you see here is even when we go from 14 years old all the way down to birth, there's only 140 in the United States that have died with COVID. That's the yellow slice. Drownings, you've got 698. Stroke, 229.
Wow.
And
How
then
old are these 229 having strokes?
0 to 14. Birth to 14.
How is a 14-year-old or younger kid having a stroke?
I said the same thing. This is all news to me, this whole stroke thing with kids. And the drowning numbers, right? Look at 700 kids are drowning and over 1,000 in car accidents at that age, right? And then COVID is 140. So strokes are claiming more kids than COVID. And asthma, I didn't put asthma in here. Asthma is bigger than COVID also. So let's go to the next slide. And you see it's like 28,000 kids have died from other stuff. All right, so when we look at this distribution of the sexes and we say, all right, so wait a second, if roughly twice as many of one chromosome combo is dying as the other chromosome combo, regardless of how you identify, right? So I'm not getting into that. You can identify any way you want. Here we're simply talking about when you draw your blood, does the chromosome come out XX or XY? That's all I care about. You can identify any way you want. So based on that, go to the next slide, because we know one of these chromosome combos is killing more people. Well, what I found was that according to the United Federation of Teachers and Randy Weingarten's organization, the ratio of male to female teachers is greater than 3/4. So more than 3/4 of the teachers in the United States are women. And Hollywood has a female director problem.
Right.
I found where all the female directors are. They're teaching school. So if we want,
movie.
well, if we're going to start doing litmus tests in certain industries by sex, and we're going to say we don't have enough female directors, does that mean we have too many female teachers? Is that the other?
Where's the article that says that schools have a male problem and we need more male teachers?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Are there too many? If they're saying there's too many male directors and not enough female directors, or do we have the flip side of that problem here in the education system? I don't know. I'm just looking at the numbers. And if I were a male, I would say, I even stand a chance to be a teacher, unless I go to Wyoming. All right, so let's go to the next slide.
Frankie points out that childhood obesity is very high and that could be a potential contributor to strokes. Eating crap.
Yeah, but it's more than COVID. It's crazy.
That's shocking.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got this 3/4 ratio of male to female. And if you go back up one slide, I think it was showing the death ratio. No, okay, so it just doubled. I duplicated the slide. Just go to the next slide. Yeah, but the COVID deaths are afflicting one of these sexes more than the other in a rather dramatic way, a 2-to-1 way. So if twice as many women were dying as men, let's go back up a slide to that chart of the 3/4. Yeah. So if twice as many men are dying as women, or twice as many women are dying as men, does that impact reopening the school safely? Yes, because 3/4 of the teachers are women. So if 3/4 of the teachers are women and twice as many women are dying.
Right, there's fewer who are dying. Someone pointing out here that 77 plus 24 is 101%.
And that is a perfect example of how voting systems can be manipulated, is what you see here.
Don't say it, dude.
Well, okay, but this is just how spreadsheets work. in the
Rounding
spreadsheet
up.
world. And I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. And that's how it works. Okay. And you look at that and you're like, well, how would that happen? That's just how it works. It's how it defaults. And so this is how you get into trouble with other systems, is this type of rounding error. And you're exactly right. That's correct. And that's what happens in the default spreadsheet, the way it's set up. All right. The other thing that's interesting news is the United States is doling out 6 million doses of vaccines and doing 1.5 million in the arm per day. Those are big numbers, right? So if we're doing 1.5 million a day in the United States, how many teachers are there? Let's go to the next slide. It's on the next slide.
Zuckerberg looking creepy as hell.
Oh, he's so exciting. All right, how many teachers are there in the United States? 3 million. So, yeah, let's not go there yet. We're going to save that for the Patreon.
What does Zuckerberg have to do with that?
Yeah, all right, go back up. Go back up a slide. Go back up one. All right, so the net of this is, if the United States is doing 1.5 million vaccines a day right now, and there's 3 million teachers, we can vaccinate all the teachers in a 48-hour window in 2 days. It's all it takes. If they're doing
I don't think they all want it, though.
Well, that's a separate issue. Okay, well, that's a different topic. So, you know, step one, any teacher that wants the vaccine on Monday, show up in the auditorium, and if they're doing 1.5 million a day, vaccinate the teachers on Monday and Tuesday, and then carry on. And why is that not the plan? Why is it any more complicated than that? You got 3 million teachers, you're doing 1.5 million a day, Monday and Tuesday, vaccinate any teacher that wants the vaccine at their school. End of story. If you don't want the vaccine, that's awesome. Get back to work. We're done. This
They're
isn't
having a big
complicated.
battle over that right now, because
just solve the whole problem. The whole problem is solved.
Cuomo is telling you the schools will remain closed, and then the teachers are, sort of not so hip to having their DNA sampled, and this company Fulgent Genetics is saving their DNA samples, and then Michael Caine's group, the New York Teachers for Choice.org, were trying to get access to the contract. It finally came out that there's some screwy shenanigans as far as what they're going to do with their genetic samples.
Well, we did a show a couple of weeks ago called Papers, Please, talking about travel. Will your travel be vaccine dependent? And
Israel is doing it already.
And Angela Merkel is also, if you read, there was an article with Angela Merkel saying that they've all agreed in Europe that you're going to need a vaccine passport, or you're going to need to get tested and then quarantine for 2 weeks and all this other monkey business. And so if you're a conscientious objector and you're like, no, you're not giving me a vaccine, you're not sticking anything in my nose, and those are my religious beliefs, they can't do it. They can't do it if you're a conscientious objector and it's your religious
They can just tell
belief.
you you're not allowed in the country. It's our country and you can't come in. I mean, luckily I've been to a lot of places in Europe because I'm not doing that. Wait a minute now. Is this Neil Ferguson? This idiot is the guy who had the model that, well, not the model that he was having sex with, but the mathematical model. Why is he still being listened to? That's the guy from the Royal College who had it all wrong from the beginning.
Why they still listening to Fauci, right?
Yeah.
Fauci, we have Fauci on audio saying that he would give his patient, right? But not America.
What?
Hydroxychloroquine. We had the audio from his show with Chris Stiegel in Philadelphia.
Right.
And Fauci says, oh, yeah, no, I would give it to my patients if I had nothing else. And today, as we do this show, there is no oral therapeutic that's approved by the FDA in the United States for coronavirus. There's no oral therapeutic that's approved by the FDA for coronavirus in the USA. So
there's an anal swab, though. So if people are into that.
And I think we're out of time, but we should talk about that when we go patron only, how the U.S. diplomats in China were forced to take the anal swab test. Did you hear this?
Is that true?
The U.S. Yeah, well, I don't know if it's true, but they're reporting that the U.S. diplomats in China, and I'm hoping in Hong Kong, were forced to take the anal swab test by the Chinese in order to validate. And I saw that, I think, on Breitbart. And so
CNN is
there you
telling
go.
us that they're asking the Chinese not to give them anal.
There you
That's
go.
great.
There you go. So thank you, CNN, for validating and verifying and fact checking. So
God.
yeah,
This is
Have you
this is what's going to cause World War III right here, Joe.
have you been to the embassy in Hong Kong? The U.S. embassy in Hong
No.
Kong? Oh
No.
boy. All right. As we sign off and say goodbye and go over to Patreon only, show everybody Google Earth Hong Kong, the U.S. embassy in Hong Kong. Boy, you want to talk about a spooked palace? Holy mackerel!
But I told you how you
It's,
can tell the difference between the nasal swab and the anal swab, right?
No, how do you tell the difference,
It's
Jason?
the smell.
That's fabulous.
U.S. Embassy in Hong Kong. Hong Kong style fast food restaurant. I'm not finding it. We'll have to look for that later.
Fabulous.
More immature, lowbrow jokes and searching for embassies on Google Earth coming right up.
Really?
Stay with us, everybody. Join us on subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. And don't forget to check out subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen. Thanks for watching tonight, everybody. Have a great weekend. Tune in less than 10 minutes on